A story that we all know is how we started our year, which was some pretty terrible weather in North Queensland, floods, all sorts of issues that are happening there. Well, there's a follow-up, and very rarely does the Australian media ever follow up. They ever go back to the same story that they go wall to wall with. Well, I want to go back to it now because there's no food in some parts of Queensland because they are cut off from roads. Now, this is some of the stuff that's been popping up on social media. Now, this is, by the way, not some far-flung thing out the back of the proverbial Burke, even though it's in New South Wales. This is in Cairns, okay? This is what is happening right now. Now, we're not talking about when people went nuts about toilet paper during the Wu flu. We are talking about people's access to the basics. Now, what really gets me about this is that, we can fly politicians into the area. They can go and point at things and show maximum empathy. Well, here's an idea. Rather than an airdrop of BS and insincere garbage from politicians, can we use whatever technologies we get them there to get food to people who need it? Now, this has been going on for a couple of weeks now. Now, I get it. It's impossible to get there by road. I heard a supermarket CEO saying that they were doing a bit when it comes to airdrops, but clearly not enough. Clearly not okay. How can we not have people in the areas that have got access to be able to put it on a boat and land it into a place like Cairns? Get on this. If the politicians can get there to point at a problem, the politicians can do something to fix the problem. I've got a bit more to say about this week, including the insurance companies and the disgraceful way that they treat people who think that they are covered in natural disasters. It won't make the lead of the 6 p.m. news. It won't go anywhere near the front page, but I care, you care, which is why it will stay towards the top of this program. But first, let us get to the obvious here, which is the latest opinion polls that you've heard about all day. In fact, the media are quite excited because there's a chance of a change of government.
Tonight, a YouGov poll of 40,000 voters has the coalition ahead, 51.1% to 48.9%.
The modelling suggests a strong electoral advantage for the opposition.
A new Redbridge poll of 20 key marginal seats shows the coalition ahead 52-48, a 3% swing.
All right, you may have heard that already, read it in the papers today. Let's get into the detail, then what it all means with COS and with Kroger in a couple of minutes' time. So, two-party preferred, 52-48. Now, this is an interesting rolling poll. See, both major political parties have a thing called a tracking poll. This is where they have a look at 20 key seats, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, and they get data back each and every day about how they're doing. I remember the inside word on the tracking poll of the 2019 federal election was that the only time they had a 4 in front of it was the final days of the campaign. Okay? So, for them to have a strong vote at this point in time is really important. Now, marginal seat polling and seat polling can be very difficult, but they say, the people that are behind all of this, that there is much in these stats. We'll talk about it with COS, whose company Redbridge is in part of all of this in a moment or two's time, at 52-48. In terms of the primary vote, in these 20 seats that matter. So it might be slightly higher than the national numbers or slightly lower than national numbers, depending on whom you wish to vote for. But if all of these 20 seats follow this, then with a 4 in front of it, the Liberal Party would be in a position to get very close to, if not win an election. 43-33, huge margin. As for the Greens at 12 and others stubbornly sitting around at 12. Now, that other factor are things like Teals and all the rest of it, but obviously they are not counted in the overall 20 seats that are mattering here. So, yes, there is an independent vote that's floating, but it's not as keen as some may see. The good news out of all of these polls, and apparently they're going to be updated, I think, weekly, which means we'll have a version of this every week between now and the election. The best news for Peter Dutton in all of this is that the Liberal Party is leading on two-party preferred in a big way. In Victoria, in fact, they are smashing it in Victoria and way ahead in New South Wales. That's where most of these 20 seats are, and that's why the predictions are the way that they seem right now. In fact, in Victoria, it's 58-42 in favour of the Libs right now. New South Wales, 53-47. If you are looking for the silver lining and the Prime Minister's support, the Prime Minister is leading with the so-called soft or leaning voters. So people have already got a hardcore idea of which way they're going to vote. That is a very strong lead for the Liberal Party right now. But remember, compulsory voting means that soft or leaning voters are ultimately where all of this is decided. So That's how we start to get to the game of 50-50. Meantime, the Labor Party is in front in the two-party preferred of 57-43 in the quote-unquote other or smaller states. There are marginal seats in South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, 2 up for grabs in the Northern Territory. So if Labor is really in front in those places, then basically the election and the big movement predicted in these polls, well, it ends up coming down to essentially New South Wales and Victoria.